She's not responding, so I'm not sure how far off she
Turn
is.
this on here. There.
So you ready? Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, November 16, 2021 Urbandale City Council meeting. I will call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to take roll call, please.
Caduce.
Here.
Thank you. Obrecht.
Here.
Russell.
Here.
Hoagie.
Here.
And Carberry Montgomery's absent.
Barbara Montgomery is currently absent. She will join us as soon as she gets here. I haven't heard from her, but she, I supposedly is on her way. So I'll ask if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance as you're able. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. Ask for a motion in a second.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Russell. Discussion, please vote.
I am experiencing some connectivity issues on my.
Okay. That passes, though?
Yes.
That passes, all right. Thank you, and that passes. All right, then we move on to item 3, Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that is not a part of tonight's agenda. Is there anyone who'd like to address the council this time? Okay, seeing none, then we will move on to item 4 is the adoption of the minutes. We have 3 to adopt. First is the meeting minutes from November 2. Motion by Pogge,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And then secondly, the November 6th meeting,
I'll move approval.
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And then the November 9 meeting.
Waiting for the voice from above. Move approval.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Caduce.
Second.
Discussion, please vote.
Still carried.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. And Councilmember Carberry Montgomery's here. We'll give her a moment to get situated and we'll continue on with the agenda. So when you're logged in.
Moment, it was not, and it is updating. Yes.
Okay, so we're ready to go. All right, then item 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we have 9 items for approval.
Move approval.
Motion by Obrecht. Second by Pogge. Discussion, please vote. That item passes. Thank you. Item 6, public hearings. We have one public hearing to consider the public property extended lease agreements with the sport associations. Just before we get started, just again, some ground rules. I know we have some folks here tonight that have some interest in this tonight. What we will do tonight is I will open up the public hearing, and Jan Herkey, then our Parks and Rec Director, will give an overview of this. The council will have an opportunity to ask Jan of any questions they have of her. And then the public hearing will commence after that. I will take each lease in the order that they are on the agenda for public comment. So I'll start with the Urbandale Little League first and then move on down. So I'll ask for each one, and then once all the comments are done for that, then the public hearing will be closed and then the council will deliberate. So with that, let me first open the public hearing. The public notice for this was published in the November 5, 2021 Des Moines Register, and ask the clerk for any objections to that notice as published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Pogge. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. So Jan, I will turn it over to you to kick us off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, before you tonight are the review of the lease agreements of city-owned property with the Urbandale Little League, Urbandale Girls Recreation Association, JUSC, and the Jayhawk Soccer Club. All the leases outline the responsibilities of the city and the leasee for the program operations, facility maintenance. The lease requires a hold harmless indemnification insurance coverage with the city to be named as an additional insured. The 4 sports associations, it's currently 5.5 years into a 10-year lease. And if you recall in 2016, for those of you who were on the council at the time, the 10 years was tied to a parking lot repayment schedule. Each year, $5,000 payment for a period of 10 years for a total of $50,000 for 3 of those associations, again, tied to the parking lots at both Walker Johnson Park and the soccer softball complex. The city paid for those parking lots up front to the tune of $700,000 for Walker Johnson Park and $715,000, so total of a little over $1.4 million for the 2 parking lots. So the clubs are paying back approximately 7% each of the overall parking lot. But again, that's tied to the 10-year payments. A provision after 5 years, the end of the term, which comes at the end of December, is if the lessees have not been in default under any terms and conditions of the lease, they have the option to extend the lease for a term of an additional 5 years. And no club has been in default of any terms of the lease. All but 1 club has indicated an interest and a desire to extend the lease for an additional 5 years under the current conditions and have signed the lease. And the Jayhawk Soccer Club is not in agreement, and they will be sharing their comments tonight with you in regards to that. I'll just cover a little bit about each lease. The Urbandale Little League, it's for the use of Northview Park and the Little League complex of the baseball fields there. They will be to maintain fields and infrastructure and the continuing maintenance and programming for the Little League activities. Urbandale Girls Recreation Association is for the use of the softball complex at 104th and Meredith, and again, for the ongoing maintenance and programming at that complex. The soccer leases are for the soccer complex and for the Walker Johnson fields with the soccer. And the lease discussion tonight is about the fields owned by the city, so not regarding fields that are outside of Urbandale. And just want to provide just a few comments in regards to the soccer leases. We met with both clubs, and in 2016, the council encouraged them to work together to come to an agreement on the lease agreements, and that was not successful. AJ and I met with the clubs, heard their proposals, and also shared the other clubs' proposals. We also provided a few options for the clubs to consider. One is to keep the lease the same. One is for the Jayhawk to retain the use at Walker Johnson and to have the opportunity to rent some field space at the complex. And the third was for the Jayhawk would be provided 2 fields at the complex and pay a certain amount toward the soccer club for improvements that were done in the last 5 years. None were mutually supported by both clubs. JUSC requests to maintain the current lease and field allocations, and the Jayhawk clubs has a desire to gain access to fields at the complex. And again, not all of you were here in 2016, so I just wanted to give you a brief overview in regards to the soccer clubs. Both clubs have grown a lot in the last 10 years. There seems to be a continued need for more field space. I think as a park and rec director, we can never have enough field space or gym space. So both clubs offer both recreation and select soccer opportunities and include players that are both Urbandale residents and non-residents. And these options help expand programming and skill development opportunities for the youth. To meet the growing needs of its constituents, the Urbandale Soccer Club partnered with the Johnston Soccer Club in 2007 and fully merged with the Johnston Club in 2017 to become the Johnston Urbandale Soccer Club. Its select team, Sporting Iowa, focused on providing more advanced opportunities to meet the needs of select and more advanced players. The Jayhawk Soccer Club has also grown significantly since its inception in 2011, and they also have a select team called Iowa United FC. And since gaining access to the fields at Walker Johnson Park, the Jayhawk Club has invested significantly in developing the fields, including installing irrigation and lights at Martin Field. Each club has a different operational model and provides opportunities for parents and players to choose what model and organization fits best for them. I wanted to bring to your attention, and you may or may not be aware, but we certainly realize there's not enough open field space for all the needs in the community. We get requests from a number of other groups and organizations to use soccer field space and other field space in our parks, including rugby, lacrosse, ultimate frisbee, cricket, adult soccer. And to date, we haven't allowed those clubs to have a lease for the soccer fields, and it's remained with the two soccer clubs. The main challenge with the city faces is the soccer leases is the consideration for field allocation. The fields are owned by the city, and both clubs are aware that capital improvements done at the sites become the property of the city if and when they no longer use the sites or the leases are voided. And with that said, JUSC has developed the soccer complex and the fields at Walker Johnson for over 30 years and made significant investments in those two sites. And again, upon creation of the Jayhawk Club, when they had access to the Walker Johnson, they've done improvements at those sites as well. The Jayhawk Club has grown from its inception and is seeking additional field space and is asking for a more equal balance of field space between the two clubs. The JUSC Club is concerned that a complex that they have continued to have programming needs for, and they have invested significantly, access will be given to a club that has not invested in its development. And a final note is the Jayhawk Club has asked the city to require both clubs a criteria for provide residency information for players on the clubs and field space to be related to that criteria. I will share that staff does not recommend adding that requirement and criteria for the clubs to provide that information about the players. The reason being is the city has had a successful model of providing recreation-based programs for our patrons and not restricting based on residency. And that includes city facilities, a senior recreation center, the library, park shelters, all of our recreation programs. I would say over 50% of our participants in our rec programs, as well as our senior programs, for example, are non-residents. So that model has worked well, and it doesn't seem necessary at our staff level recommendation to change the requirements for the leases for city-owned property as well. And that's consistent with area communities as well. West Des Moines has up to 50% of non-residents in their recreation programs as well. And when the lease fully expires in 2026, the city may consider setting different criteria for allocation of the park space. The criteria were not part of the initial 10-year lease agreement, and furthermore, residency requirements have not been a criteria in leases for over 25 years. So staff evaluated the leases and the conditions and the criteria of 10-year lease that no one has defaulted to date. Clubs maintain the facilities to the standards outlined in the lease. Each club has made their parking lot payments as required. Investments have been made in improvements in the facilities, and they have all provided quality programming for the youth. So therefore, staff's recommendation is to extend the leases for both, for all 4 of the sports associations on the current conditions for an additional 5 years. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Jan. Any questions from the council for Jan?
Jan, I'm not sure why I haven't asked this when we were dealing with the new field at the second new Urbandale School, is that Valerius?
Valerius Elementary School.
What will that be involved in any of these leases?
Not at this time. One, it won't be ready until 2023, and that is anticipated. It'll be programmed by the Parks and Rec Department and for city use. So some of those clubs and organizations that don't have access to soccer fields, as well as some of our recreation programming, that we'd use that field for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Jan, I've heard over the years, different types of discussions we've had among council and with staff about offering other field space or other space to the Jayhawk Soccer Club to build fields. Have we in fact offered them other space?
There has been 2 different opportunities for field space or city-owned property in the western side of Urbandale, and that has not been something that the club supported in regards to the proximity and the location of those fields.
Was that offered to them on the same terms that we have worked with Little League and everybody, all the other sports fields or sports teams?
It was offered similar to the Urbandale Soccer Club 30-some years ago. Is here's the land, and the club would then be required to develop it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Jan? All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Again, as I said before, we will take the leases in order for comments. So first of all, I'll ask for each lease, and then if you want to speak on a lease as we're going in the order, just please raise your hand. I'll recognize you and have you come up to the podium, and please give your name and address for the record. Again, as you walked in tonight, there are standards of participation. I ask that you adhere to those standards of participation as you make any comments tonight toward the council. So with that, we will start with the Urbandale Little League lease. Is anyone here tonight that would like to address the Urbandale Little League lease? Okay, seeing none then, we'll move to the JUSC lease. Would anyone like to speak with regard to the JUSC lease? Yes, sir. Please come up.
Good evening. I'm Scott Vanderart. My address is 4721 76th Street in Urbandale, Iowa. I'm president of the Johnston Urbandale Soccer Club. I also serve as chairman for Sporting Iowa, so I'm very familiar with both organizations. I won't get into what Jan covered because she hit a lot of the pieces for it, but I will say that our interest obviously lies in continuing our existing relationship that we have with the city and to be able to maintain our presence in the community. As we've been in the community since '75. We do feel we offer a pretty good program for our residents that include all skill levels. Our partnerships that we've created over the past year has been done with the idea in mind that we can actually expand and offer a variety of different programs that, had we remained just a community-based organization in Urbandale, would not have allowed us to do. Currently, we offer recreational program from 4U clear through 19U. We offer an academy program, which is kind of an introduction to our select programs at 9U and 10U. And then we start our select program at 11U, and that runs clear through 19U. 11 and 12 is just kind of an introductory to select base level. They travel for some tournaments, participate in local leagues. Our older teams from 13 to 19, we actually offer 3 different levels of programming. One that's more state-focused, one that's regional-focused, and a new addition was our participation in Elite Clubs National League. We're the only club in Iowa that's been offered that opportunity to participate in that league. So it gives us kids who are interested in pursuing college opportunities and playing in college really more exposure to that level of play. Cost-wise, we offer obviously recreational programs run fairly inexpensively and go from season to season for less than $50 through just a little over $100, depending on age groups. Our player mix, it's as diverse as our community is. Just in the last 5 years, we've actually offered financial assistance to over 415 applicants. Many of those are maybe returning applicants from year to year, but that financial assistance equates to over $330,000 in player fees that we've covered for these players. So our interest is actually ensuring that every player that's interested in playing has an opportunity to play regardless of financial means. I don't know what that breakdown is in terms of demographics. We don't look at that, but I can tell you some anecdotal information. With my son's team in particular, we had probably about half the team that was on financial assistance, roughly half of them that come from immigrant families, a number of them single-parent families, and a lot of them had needs to get to games, tournaments, things like that, that other parents stepped up and provided that. What I didn't mention with the financial assistance, that doesn't cover uniforms that we may have provided to those players, so they didn't have to incur that cost, ensuring that they have cleats, things like that, and just getting them to their events. And, there isn't a club in the area that doesn't do that to some extent. It's just, we want to make sure every kid that wants to play has an opportunity to play. As far as our use of the complex, as Jen mentioned, our programs are growing. Just this last fall, we had over 922 home games. That's includes our select program and our recreational program. But because we are able to operate out of multiple complexes, namely Johnston Soccer Complex and Valley, only about 30% of those home games were at Urbandale Soccer Club or Soccer Complex. As far as overuse of fields, I know that's been an issue and it's a concern of ours as well. I mean, these fields, they're getting used. We tend to actually have probably more overuse at our Johnston complex, namely because we don't have lights available at Urbandale, and our training sessions are limited to pretty much one session a night. In the fall in particular, as daylight, as you know, we're losing it very quickly. I'm glad our seasons, for the most part, is pretty close to being over because it's been hard to get on fields at Urbandale at this point in the season. But again, we just want to continue to keep our presence in the community and be able to maintain and continually use the complex that we invested in time and money in. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. All right, is there anyone else like to speak with regard to the JSC lease? All right, I am not seeing anyone, so then I will then switch to Jayhawk. Would anyone like to speak with regard to the Jayhawk lease? Yes, sir.
Hi, Brett Williams, 24831 Calico Creek, Adel, Iowa, Jayhawk co-president. So I think we've talked about it a few different times, and Jen hit on it. And really, the main objection that we have is this 80-20 split. If we look back at it, I've talked to several of you. There was really no criteria used to justify giving one club 80%, another club 20%. And again, it's been acknowledged. The Ombudsman report that came out over a year ago acknowledged, which AJ, you've seen and agreed to, that going forward, this type of criteria should be used in some way, shape, or form. It's not terribly difficult, especially when both clubs were under the same governing body. That would be pretty easy to do, to talk about Urbandale residents. I think it's the fair thing to do, and I know they compared it to other instances in the area of where this is not being used, but I think this is a different circumstance where you do have two clubs providing, while soccer, vastly different opportunities for different age groups and those attempting to play soccer at various levels. So I think that would be number one. Number two, there's no doubt that the clubs have not gotten along in the past. Not here to bring that back up. Definitely not something that we want to keep going in the future. But I think the idea that trying to have the clubs negotiate, especially when one club has 80% and one has 20, that's never going to work out. And so that's why we're really looking for you, the city, to establish some criteria, I would say objective criteria, so that anyone questions it at the end of the day, you can fall back on the data. Because right now when I have people ask me, why is it 80-20? I can't tell them. I don't think anyone can tell them why. And so it doesn't create a lot of transparency for those in the community to really understand and back this. The third item I want to talk about is just, I've heard a lot that this lease is set for 5 more years. There's nothing we can do about it. Nobody's broke from the lease. And I would say that there are items in that lease that specifically state that if anything is brought up that wasn't contemplated at the time of the lease, that the lease could be reevaluated. And I watched the city council meeting. I know you all talked, for those of you who were here, you all talked about it and understood that if anything came up that wasn't contemplated, the lease would be reevaluated. And we've already kind of glossed over them, but let's 3 things is the Urbandale Soccer Club is the one that the lease was granted to. Shortly after, they merged with the much larger Johnston Soccer Club to form JUSC. So now we're not talking just Urbandale fields, but we're also talking access to fields in Johnston. They then merged with West Des Moines Soccer Club, getting all of those fields, and then finally formed Sporting Iowa, which was also not considered during the lease. So any one of those independent, we should be able to reevaluate the lease. And again, falling back on objective criteria, we've had over a year to think about this and put something together. But now there's 3 items. So 3 different times we've had the opportunity to reevaluate that. And so that's what we're asking tonight, is for at least to be reevaluated based on changes that were not contemplated 5.5 years ago. We think that are reasonable, equitable, and fair for those in the community. And that's what we're asking you all for here tonight. And so I guess my question would be for anyone, and happy to answer your questions back, does anyone disagree with any of that? Is there any pushback that, no, the lease should not be reevaluated, or that objective criteria just isn't the right way to go about?
We're asking for your comments right now, so.
Okay.
So the council will debate this later, but we're, tonight, again, under the standards, tonight is for your comment and to provide comment to the council, and, then they will debate this.
Okay, I think those are the 2 big ones. Like, I think we have reason to look at this lease again and not use what was decided 5.5 years ago, and the fact that we should use objective criteria and not continue to rely on the 80-20 that was set back at that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Brett. All right, was there anyone else that would like to comment with regard to the Jayhawk lease? Okay, yes, ma'am. Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Julie Earp, 12215 Ridgemont Drive, Urbandale. I don't have anything formal prepared. I'm not a member of leadership of the Jayhawk Soccer Club. My husband Brad and I just have had 3 children that have participated in the club for the last probably 8 years. So I'm just speaking to you as an Urbandale resident and as a parent of 3 kids who've enjoyed soccer starting at a very recreational level, and 2 of them now playing in the select portion of the club. And so we really didn't have much understanding of the inequity between the 2 clubs, as far as the access to the city-owned fields. And so we certainly don't want to take away from the benefits of the program JUSC and all that they've had to offer and all that they offer our community. But we're just wanting to look at, would there be an opportunity for some equal access to the city-owned fields for an Urbandale city-based club? Also maybe wanting to recognize that both JUSC and the Jayhawk Soccer Club, these are all developing players that will end up in our high school teams. And so wanting to provide equal access to all the children and all the kids that are participating in the city of Urbandale in both of the soccer clubs. So we would just like to support Brett's recommendation. If you would please just look at the equal access, allowing the Jayhawk Soccer Club to have equal access to fields in the city of Urbandale as a city-based club. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Keith Smith. I live at 8300 Parkview Drive in Urbandale. I've been an Urbandale resident for 17 years. My son Started playing in the Jayhawk Soccer Club probably about 5 years old. He's now 13, playing on the Iowa United Select, which I'm a head coach for the 13U Select. All the points that have been brought up, I'm not going to go over any of those again. I will say from a coaching standpoint and a safety standpoint of the kids within our club, the overuse that, they're talking about as far as their Johnston fields and not having the lights and all this stuff, while I don't disagree with that, I know that for the Parks and Rec Committee that the pictures and everything were sent, there was information sent about the overuse of Martin Field and the upper fields. And from a safety standpoint, specifically this year, when it would rain, which it very rarely did, the field turns to mud because, I think I don't know how many, Brett could tell you, I'm sure you guys have the information, how many games we played on this field. Not to mention all the training sessions, which are usually shared between the select programs. We share one field. But then when that field dries up and we have a drought like we had this year, I had 5 ankle injuries on my team from overuse playing on something that's like concrete. And we don't have the option to go to a turf field at Valley or another field in Urbandale Soccer Complex or anything to even play games. So, from the safety standpoint of all the teams that are coming into Urbandale to play, it's the overuse of that field while our field manager does a really, really good job trying to maintain it. It just can't handle that much traffic. It just can't. But we don't have an option to go anywhere other than we rent space at the Recplex. We've done that this year, I believe, for a few games. Where does that money go? Does that go to the city of Urbandale? Or does it go to West Des Moines? Would you rather have us spend the money here to rent space for the safety of our kids, or should we take it to another city? Some of that stuff just doesn't make any sense to me. I heard, and I can't speak to the facts as far as how many games were scheduled at the Urbandale Soccer Complex this year, but I know it was very, very few. It was, I don't even think it was a double-digit percentage of the games that were played at Martin Field. They have the option to go somewhere else. We don't. All we're asking for is for a little bit of, like they're saying, objective criteria. This 80-20 split is, for the safety of the kids, mainly. That's why we do this. We're here for the kids. We're not here. I don't get paid for it. I'm not a paid coach. I'm a volunteer. All of us are volunteers. We don't have a pool of money to take from as a profit organization to scholarship people and scholarship kids. A lot of us coaches do that ourselves. I paid for 3 kids on my team to play soccer, to travel, all of this stuff, just because these kids want to play soccer. And that came out of my pocket, not the club. The club didn't reimburse me for that. They don't have the money because we're not a profit organization. We just want the kids to play soccer. So at that point, there's so many little arguments one way or the other, and I don't want to argue about anything. I just want these kids to play soccer because, let's be honest, if they're not playing soccer at the 13, 14, 15-year-old range, what are they doing? They're somewhere else, probably getting into trouble. And then we're going to deal with it, at a later date. So let's be objective about it. If you have any questions, it's fine, but otherwise I'm done.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else like to comment with regard to Jayhawk? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to show you. Lindsay Grubbs, 1855 Northwest 130th Street, and I'm in Clive. I wanted to show you guys the photographs of the field space. Do you know how to get to that?
Can you do it from over there, the dock cam?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If you want to, do you want to put a picture up?
No, it should be on the computer.
Oh, that.
No, you're
I
fine.
thought you were. Okay, so here's
Okay.
the 4.
Okay, thank you so much. So here is Martin Field. These are our upper fields. Here's the Urbandale Soccer Complex. And here's the field comparison. That is all that I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to comment with regard to the Jayhawk lease? Okay, then we'll move on to the UGRA lease. Does anyone like to comment with regard to the UGRA lease? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So with that, I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
By Obrecht,
Second.
second by
Second.
Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote.
I apologize. That passes.
Okay, that passes. The public hearing is closed, so then I will
Can't reach the page.
turn this over to the council for discussion and consideration of a motion.
I guess I just started out, I mean, obviously there's a lot of passion with Jayhawk soccer and the value and benefits that it brings to the community. But I think we sit here as a 5-year lease renewal of did the organizations perform or not? This is the question, and the organizations have performed at this point. And we've got some outstanding parking lot dollars to deal with, and it just doesn't sound like there's any other option than to renew the leases as is, because the rest of the options require dollars, and there aren't, what I've heard is there aren't dollars coming forth to make any of the other options work. And so that, I guess, that's what I keep hearing back from, but whether it's staff or whether it's Jayhawk or whether it's anybody else involved in it, just kind of the reading I take on it at this point. And so, if there's any other comments.
I guess as the only other, well, I guess Adam Caduce is on the line, but the other person that wasn't involved in this initial lease, I rely heavily on our staff and our legal counsel for their sage advice on this. But, you know, what ultimately disappoints me, not in our staff and our attorney, but is in these two groups that they can't figure this out. I mean, everybody says they want to do it for our kids. I sure as heck want our kids to have all the opportunities that we can give them, but we only have the land. And we have these existing leases, and I'll defer to what Adam said about the performance of the leases. I don't understand why, in the name of our kids, we can't put the past behind us and move on. And I have no dogs in this fight whatsoever. I have spent quite a bit of time talking to people about it through my campaign 2 years ago and this last year, but I see no reason to change the leases based on the advice of staff and our attorney, but I just really wish that the people involved in soccer in the Urbandale School District, I live in Urbandale, I'm in the Waukee School District, so I'm not really familiar with this programming, but I just wish that we could figure it out and not have this be so ugly and contentious. And do what's best for the kids. And it sounds like the kids are getting great experiences from both programs. And so, I mean, I guess I'm content begrudgingly going forward with what we have, because there shouldn't be so much stress in a recreational program that there is in Urbandale related to soccer. So that's where I'm coming from, and that will be my vote this evening.
You know, I remember 5 years ago when we gave these initial leases, and the majority of the council at that time, who Dave and I are the only ones here who were at there back then, but the majority of the council all emphasized we need more soccer fields. And so I'm kind of disappointed to hear there have been opportunities offered Jayhawk soccer and they've passed. I know that there are, I think there's also opportunities in the school district. They have the Townsend fields, which the Urbandale Soccer Club used for years, and were taken out due to construction. And I understand a pass went to them and they said no, but I suspect another pass, and I suspect the city would join with that. They could probably do something. Somebody mentioned the school land out at 128th, which is sitting out there, which is available, plus the land that the city has offered. So, and I don't expect these kids to come up with their $35 registration fee and another $100 to build a field, but there's a lot of people who would quickly join in a campaign to pay for it. And that's what Little League has done. That's what UGRA did. That's what the Urbandale Soccer Club did. They run campaigns, they raise the money, and they build the fields. And so I know they're all city-owned fields, and that's what they want to talk about, but their Urbandale Soccer Club and Urbandale Johnston Club developed fields that are involved. Not only those, but the two that they're playing on now were developed by them. So I think we ought to renew the lease for another 5 years, and I would encourage Jayhawk Soccer to sit down with the city and find some space and put together a campaign and go build some more fields. We need, and that ignores the requests I've gotten from rugby, who wants fields. We have requests from adult soccer, who would love to come out. We have adult soccer playing on the fields, and they play on the over Walker Johnson fields because they see them all the time. So they stop there, and you go up there when soccer games aren't playing, and there's usually adults playing, which are very hard on a field. So I just think we need more fields. That's the ultimate solution.
Been on the council for 8 years. There probably has not been an issue that's been more discussed. There has been an issue that has not been more bantered back and forth. There's probably not an issue that there has not been numerous meetings. There's probably not an issue that has taken up more of our city manager's time. And here we are 5 years later, and I feel like we haven't made any gains at all in the last 5 years. We're sitting here with two clubs, to me, that seems they have an inability to get along and to come to some sort of a compromise or some sort of a solution. Both clubs, I sense your passion. Both clubs, it's for the kids, but yet we are unable, here we are 5 years later, to come up with a solution to allow both clubs to work together. I've heard there's been offers to develop other fields that the city has agreed to, but those fields have not been developed. There haven't been steps taken. I don't understand why we have conflicting, to me, testimony regarding the use of the field, whether or not it's 80 or 20, or whether or not there is available space, or whether or not one field has been overused. But it comes back to taking a look at the lease and to determine whether or not all the terms of the lease have been met. And I believe that this club has met, both clubs have met all the terms of the lease. And I don't see a basis to overrule or to modify the lease at this time. I'm disappointed. Like I said, for 8 years, this issue has gone on and on and on. And the only ones that will suffer will be the kids. That we profess that's who we are taking these steps in their best interest. So I agree with the comments have been made. I think that the lease has not been altered and it should be renewed. And I would just urge both clubs to put aside whatever differences that have been brewing for 8 years now and think about the kids and come up with a solution. Thank you.
Adam, did you?
I'll just make a comment.
Yep, go ahead, Adam.
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you. Well, I've gotten more emails on this issue than probably all the other issues that have come before council during my time put together. So I certainly appreciate parents' input and passion into this issue. And having coached a few things over the years too, appreciate all the coaches too, because that is probably one of the most thankless jobs for all four of these clubs. The city was instrumentally involved in coming to this agreement 5 years ago when it got put together. You know, to the comments about if they can ever be reviewed, I think the burden really falls on the two clubs to come to an agreement and bring that to the city. If they can't come to an agreement, I don't know what more involvement that we're able to put in to get to an agreement. I think the burden really falls on the two clubs to be able to figure out a workable solution. The solution we have, the leases today, seem to be the most workable solution that we have. And until the two clubs can come up with a better solution, I think we're in this agreement for another 5 years. I like the idea of more fields. There was a day when Urbandale didn't have any soccer fields or any baseball or softball fields, and it was the involvement of the clubs that helped bring those to fruition. And I think that's probably the next step to get more fields into the community. So I would concur with the rest of the council that at this point, I think we just need to continue with this 5-year lease until we can get more resolution from the two clubs.
All right, thank you, Adam.
With that, I'll move Council Letter 6875, approving all 4 leases as presented.
All right, motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Pogge. Any further discussion? Not, please vote.
Technical issue.
I apologize. Do you mind if we voice vote
Okay,
for this?
all right, we'll take a roll call.
Error messages left and right here. Obrecht,
Yes.
Hoagie,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Harbury Montgomery,
Yes.
Caduce.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And I guess, again, thank you everyone for being here tonight and speaking and showing your passion for this. I'll echo the council's comments. I've been involved with this for many years and it's never an easy decision. It's never an easy process. And at the end of the day, we have limited field space and that's really the nut of it. And, we want kids to play soccer. We want kids to have fun. That's everybody's goal. I think it's everybody's stated goal. We just need to find the best way to do it. And we urge the clubs to work together to do that too. But unfortunately, we don't have unlimited field space within the city that we can offer to our local clubs that would like to see field space. So, all right, with that, we will move on to item 7, regular agenda items, the real estate purchase for the acquisition of right-of-way at 17009 Meredith Drive. And to introduce this item is our Director of Engineering and Public Works, John Larson. John, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Before you tonight is a right-of-way purchase from JBN LLC for our 170th Street and Meredith Drive project. We show here, here's 170th Street, here's Meredith Drive. The property is located in the northwest corner. For the project, we'll require right-of-way and easements. Property owners have agreed to the appraised price of $26,600, so we are recommending to get concurrence from the council to acquire the easements and right-of-way that we need for the project.
Any questions for John on this item?
How does that compare with what we anticipated the price would be?
I think it's fairly close. Again, I think our appraiser has a good reputation, so I think it's a good number.
And John, does this now allow the project to go forward? Have we received all of the right-of-ways?
No, we still have on the east side, there's a condemnation that'll be that first week in January.
And is that the last piece that we need?
I think we might have some that still need signatures, but we're in agreement. We just need to get the signatures they're in developer hands right now.
John, are they developing that property right now? Or do you know what's going on?
Not right now. They've just gone to the point of removing the existing structures. They're still trying to decide what ultimate they want to do. They're kind of seeing the challenge that this is a very narrow strip. So, you know, it may be difficult to develop by itself without trying to work with some of the adjacent neighbors.
Thank you.
Move Council Letter 6882.
Okay, motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Russell. Discussion. Do we do a roll call for the rest of the evening then, Nicole? Or?
Yes, if we could, that would be
Okay,
nice.
so I'll ask for roll call then.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Hoagie,
Yes.
Caduce.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That item passes. Then item 7.2 is consider the IDOT funding agreement for 128th Street reconstruction project, Douglas Parkway to Aurora Avenue. John?
Correct. With this project, the city received $750,000 in the surface transportation block grant funds through the MPO, and it gets passed through with the Iowa DOT. With this project, we've got Douglas on the bottom, Aurora on the top. We'll be looking to reconstruct the northbound lanes on 128th Street, and then the southern, about 750 feet of the southbound lanes will be reconstructed, and then the remaining area of the southbound lanes would be full depth patched. So basically, this kind of starts the process, and the agreement allows us to get the funds from the Iowa DOT to do the project.
Okay, thank you, John. Any questions for John on this item? Well, is there a motion?
I'd move approval of Council Letter 6883.
Okay, motion by Fogy.
Second.
Second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote, or roll call?
Hoagie,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Caduce,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that passes. Item 7.3 is considered the new full-time position for police officer. And Chief, you want to make a presentation, Chief?
Just a couple quick comments. I think the council letter pretty much laid it out. We were, put our last certified list together, and we still had one opening that we needed to fill when we put that list together. We had two exceptional candidates on that list when we put it together. With this day and age of difficult hiring for police officers, the thought popped into my head that I'm going to be asking for a new budgeted position for a police officer, an additional one in July. What's the odds of maybe moving that up 6 months and we can grab this candidate really quick before she goes somewhere else? So I presented that to the city manager, and he was in agreement to present it to you as well. So if you have any questions, I would certainly answer them, but this would move us to 57 sworn. That was what my projection was, what we would need going into July of next year. So just be moving 6 months ahead of that with that approval.
And Chief, this would make you fully staffed then?
Yes, believe it or not, fully staffed. If we all make it through the background, all that, get through the academy, get through field training. So there's still some more steps to go that we might have a misstep by a candidate here or there. But currently, yes, we have 3 in field training right now. We have 3 at the academy. We have 3 scheduled, hired, and ready to go to the academy January 3rd, I believe, is the Monday, or maybe the 4th is that Monday. And then we were looking for that 1 additional, and then it would be 2. So in essence, we would be sending 5 to the academy in January.
Great. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, you were down 5 officers, or
Yeah,
9.
we were down 10 at one point, yes.
That's great. Great job.
And it just takes a long time with that academy process. Most of them are not certified. We've been able to pick up a couple certified in that process, in those processes. But it takes, 4 months at the academy, 4 months in field training to get through that process where they're actually out there on their own. So you're looking at 8 to 10 months after they're hired. And that's after they've gotten through all those hurdles, polygraph, background, medical, physical, all that of the application process. So from time of application to being on the street by yourself, it's just right at a year.
Great.
And we obviously haven't hired this one, but the next hire, I ask about, of how long to take to get another certified list out there. We've kind of been going rapid fire at them. Is it more slow it down now that we are fully staffed?
Now that we're fully staffed, there are actually 5 people on this certified list, 2 of them being very exceptional candidates, both females, one being a minority candidate as well, bilingual. So they just stood out above the others a little bit, that we wanted to move a little bit earlier. That doesn't preclude the 3 additional, or the 3 that are still on the list. If we happen to have another opening that comes up, that list is good for 1 year. So if they're still around and looking for employment, we would go forward with those candidates as well.
Okay, good to know you got some additionals on the list.
Unfortunately, what we're seeing is in any length of time that gets on that certified list, when we go back, they've taken jobs somewhere else, and then that list is exhausted very quickly.
And of course, that list is purely private. Nobody else knows who's on it, right?
Unfortunately, they do apply at other agencies while they're waiting. So, the 2 candidates that we're talking about both have applications in at other agencies when they started into our process as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Chief,
I would just commend you, Chief.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Adam.
Adam.
Okay, I would just commend you, Chief. I know at one of our work sessions, when we were down 10 officers, you put in some creative initiatives, and it sounds like it worked, and I'm really encouraged by that and glad you brought this forward. This is a great opportunity to add another great person to our force. So thanks for all your efforts to build it back.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was going to say just about the same thing. I really appreciate that you came to AJ with this, because you know the problems more than we do of getting quality folks. So I feel like it's our job to make your job run as smoothly as possible. So when we can do things like this, I'm very happy to be able to do things to make things go smoother and better at the police department.
Thank you, appreciate that. And I thank AJ too for being willing to move a little bit earlier than in unusual manner than we normally do with our budget process. So thank you.
Mine is a related question, AJ. So now if we get our police department fully staffed, how are we doing with fire?
I beg pardon?
How are we doing with the fire department? Are they fully staffed, or are we still trying to?
At this point, we are fully staffed. I expect that during the budget process, the chief will come forward to look. He's been talking about shifting away from, pardon me, his part-time staff. Because again, as like the police department, you have less people who are willing to work in a part-time position. Some of those part-time positions, they're actually full-time elsewhere, but they're working part-time for us. So we've been whittling it down from a number of part-timers to a smaller amount. So I fully expect that he'll be presenting us a recommendation for a number to eliminate the part-time positions and to go to the full-time positions. So I can't guarantee, but my level of expectations are pretty high. And as the chief said, the information I shared with you folks, our applications for any city position in the last 2 years are down about 54%. And those qualified, or those just making an application for a police position that we have open is down 60%. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. And, that would take a longer discussion. but it just is a more competitive environment. And just this morning, I heard an ad for a community that we share a border with, to be unnamed, that they were listing their starting salary, which seemed to be very competitive. And so I think the chief would concur. I think all the agencies in the Des Moines metro area are really in a continual hiring cycle. You have retirements, you have people who leave the force for a lot of different reasons, and you just have growth of communities that their demand or their need for qualified law enforcement candidates continues to grow. So it's a ever-increasing competitive marketplace. And I think we're going to see that with a lot of vacancies we have, not only in law enforcement or fire, but engineering, for example, is a very competitive environment as well. One thing we don't have to worry about is that park and recreation directors, they come on trees, so they.
Good, good.
Sorry, Jan, I had to do that.
All right, with that then, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll move approval of Council Letter 6885.
Okay, motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Pogge. Discussion, roll call.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Hoagie,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Caduce,
Yes.
All right, thank you. That passes. All right, that takes us to the end of our agenda. So, Mayor and Council items. Ron?
Tomorrow is the official opening of the MRF for Metro Waste Authority up in the south side of Grimes at 4:30. You're welcome to attend. I think if you go up early, you can probably slide in an unofficial tour of the plant if you want to see it. It's rather interesting to see $28 million worth of equipment running. And
I thought you were going to say slide in on the conveyor belt.
you could do that. I would not recommend it. I was told that last week they sent out several semis of recycled material, which has been sold. So that's good news.
Will it be open to like youth group tours and things that way?
Yeah, and included in that, we put a very large educational facility that's up, that overlooks the floor. And we've already had several requests from schools who want to bring a class out, do stuff and stuff. And and with the intent behind it is you teach kids when they're young the proper way to recycle by showing them what's going on, and we will have a cleaner stream coming through. So, but yes, if your kids want to go, call.
Well, I've got a couple dens that need environmental patches for Boy Scouts. So.
This would be good, and they would be happy to do it. And if you have trouble, give me a call and I'll take them up for a tour. So.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Bridget?
Well, I realized the last time we were here was on Election Day, so I just wanted to congratulate you on your reelection as mayor of Urbandale, and to congratulate our successful candidates who are here in the audience, Amy Kroll and Larry McBurney, as well as to thank John Booslog for his running a very good race. And I was glad I wasn't on the ballot this year, but I really, I know how hard it is, and I think that great things are ahead, and I will save my sappy retirement comments for a later meeting for our retiring council members. There'll be more opportunity for
They
that.
still have 6 weeks to work.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Bridget. Adam?
I'm good.
David?
I would like to thank the Urbandale Police Department and especially the Color Guard for the Veterans Memorial ceremony. That was well attended, really appreciated. And kudos to you, Derek. I mean, that was a great video. I mean, considering what you had to work with, you really made it look pretty good. So, but we appreciate that. Well, and obviously we appreciate our veterans, those in our community and those of us here in the council chambers tonight. So, thanks again.
All right, thank you, David. Adam Caduce?
Yeah, just a thanks for the accommodations tonight. Our family has a tradition. My brother lives in Los Angeles and isn't able to make it home for Thanksgiving, so we take Thanksgiving to him and have a nice little family trip the week before. So I appreciate the accommodation to attend today's meeting virtually. And then this will be my final meeting. So I just wanted to thank staff and my council colleagues for being so welcoming and making this a great experience. It's the honor of my lifetime to get to serve the people of Urbandale. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for your service during this interim period. It truly is appreciated. So, thank you. I don't think I have anything further. So with that.
Could you maybe sample Urbandale and then Dick Christensen?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, I can. Thank you. Yeah, Sample Urbandale is Thursday evening. So if you haven't signed up, get your ticket for that. And there'll be a number of presentations. And among them is the presentation to the 2021 Citizen of the Year, and that's Dick Christian. And, Dick is owner of Christian Photo. And, as we commented today, as we surprised him, Dick is the kind of person who's been around Urbandale for many, many years. And, he likes to do things quietly and behind the scenes. And, he probably thinks that people aren't watching what he does, but Dick is the kind of person that will do that and will, if he sees somebody in need, he'll slip somebody a $100 bill and not even think twice about it and that type of thing. So, but people know about it, and he never asked for the limelight, he never asked for any publicity, but he's a gentleman that's well deserved to have the award this year. So it's good to see Dick be the 2021 Citizen of the Year. So kudos to him. I think that covers everything. So I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So
Adam, do you want? Well, maybe Adam Caduce, do you want to give the last motion to adjourn while you're a council member?
I would be happy to second Ron's motion to adjourn.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Hey, what's the?
Thank you, Adam. and thank
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.webex.com.
It's interesting that Scott, coming back, he didn't go out with the rest of them.
He's JFC.
Yeah.
He's not Jayhawk.
No?
So Jayhawk left.
Yeah, he didn't want to, well, because he was done too, he could have left too.
Right, and there was another JFC guy here too in the back that didn't leave as well.
Yeah, I think that we got our message over to him and,
I'm grateful that the WebEx was through a phone call. And technically, so I have it set so that every other city employee on WebEx can be a co-host with me. And so one of them was technically hosting the meeting towards the end there because I was kicked off of everything except for the phone. I had lost all control, so thankfully none of them kicked off, or they didn't all kick off early.
Hey, Nicole, I was just curious, could you see any comments or anything during YouTube comments or
I
anything that way?
didn't see any on there.
Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
look, so,
no, I didn't, and really, the WebEx has only been staffed.
Right.
Since I don't publish
But I
that
know at
link,
the
but
on YouTube.
I didn't see any. No.
Okay.
And I had that feed running on my laptop, so the Wi-Fi was still working, so I could still see that. It was
so you just, the hardwired.
the hardwired, but, and so the hardwired to the equipment was working. The feed to the YouTube was.
I believe he just springs back into the tree.
I'd rather have something dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I